late night sci-fi cartoons. But before we get started, we have a couple of opening announcements. One is shamelessly plugging Rudicon. Rudicon is RIT's gaming convention run by RWAG, RIT's Board Tabletop Role-Playing Society. And Rudicon is being led by this gentleman who is actually finally showing up to a meeting. I missed you, Joe. And it's going to be amazing. There's going to be tabletop games, role-playing games, board games, video games, miniature games, as well as a 5-game group competition called the Pentathlon. This is going to be February 26th to the 28th, all over the SAU and the campus center. And Star is going to be hosting Artemis, which is a spaceship simulator. Super fun if you haven't played it. You know it's fun if you have played it. In addition, we're going to be selling food and drink, pizza. We're going to be offering cold beverages. And we're also going to be playing Stars Against Humanity, our homebrewed expansion, unofficial expansion to Cards Against Humanity. Unofficial, yeah. Still. On that note, there's going to be an RWAG board game day. It is not officially affiliated with Star, but it is going to be sci-fi themed. We're going to have a lot of sci-fi board games. There's the Firefly board game, which is excellent. All of the Call of Cthulhu board games, which are all really sweet, and Portal, the uncooperative cake acquisition game. You should definitely come by. This is going to be in Golasono, room 12. Gosnell.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, the room is to be decided. I will let you guys know in the email. And you should play all those games because next week we're going to be talking about board and tabletop games and how the mechanics reflect science fiction themes. We're also going to be able to sit down and play a bunch of the games. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And shirts! We have shirts. I mean, hopefully you all have shirts, but we're going to have Star shirts, which is way better. These shirts are going to be $10 if you are a member, $15 if you are not a member. Membership is only $6 for the semester, so I highly recommend getting it. It'll get you. Jenny wants to talk about membership really quick.
Well, that also we're going to have them available to order online soon. So if you don't, bring cash with you regularly, we'll have a form that you can use online to order online with a credit card, like most people in the modern day do. But it'll probably not be until next week that we have that ready to push out because we have to figure out how to separate the two separate forms. So, until then, if you would like to get a Star t-shirt reserved and or get membership, come see me after the meeting. I am your lovely, friendly treasurer, and I will be floating around usually in this area.
Okay, actually, if you want to segue really quick, if you want to. I was going to say, go.
Okay, so the other things I do, book club is still reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and we're going to be reading the next 5 chapters, so up to chapter 15, which I think exists. I didn't actually look. But if you want to catch up, it's a pretty quick read. It's interesting. It brings up some really interesting points about androids and about kind of how society views them and views animals after a big nuclear apocalypse and how valuable they are. But if you'd like to join us, even just for some of the idle chatter that happens once we're done with the books, we meet out there in the comfy chairs an hour before Star, and we just kind of chit-chat usually for the last half hour. So if you're looking for some place to sit and chat with cool people, that's where we'll be. Other than that, I'm also captaining Star's Relay for Life team, and we have a Slack channel set up for it. Anyone can join the channel. I just request that if you are going to actually be participating in the team, give me one sec, that you do join the team about within a couple weeks of joining the Slack channel, just so I can keep track of things. But the link to join the team can be found on the Slack channel. Yes.
As someone who is unfamiliar with Star, tell me, what's a Slack channel?
Wow, what's a Slack channel? That's a great question, Ryan. Slack is it's a cool way of communicating with other people. It's a mobile and desktop app that kind of works as a sort of chat roomy type thing.
It's a communications platform.
Yeah, that. I
and if you're interested, come talk to any of the Bridge crew or sign up at ritstar.slack.com. And I think, is there anything else you need to talk about for Relay?
No, not really.
Cool. Then we are going to.
If you do want to join, registration is $10. If you do it sooner, that's better because at the end of March, I think it is, the price goes up. So.
All right.
Join. And we'll discuss what we want to do if you join this lab.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to pass it off to the other committees, which I'm proud to announce that our Starfest committee, you'll be hearing a bit more about that, is going to be led by the wonderful Captain Justin Reeve.
That's okay. I know you don't like me anyway. Starfest is going to be awesome this year. These are our posters. You're going to see them going up around campus pretty much any time now. And we're going to be doing tons of awesome things at Starfest. If you're familiar with the event from last year, we do games, we do panels, we are going to have a ton of fun. We're going to do screenings of at least a couple of movies. It's going to be a great time. It'll be all day on April 16th in the SAU. And if you are interested in helping run the event, by all means, please join us on Saturdays in Eastman for the Starfest committee meetings. The exact date and the exact time and location should be going out in the emails.
Also, the time is at 4, and the location for now is 2371 in Eastman.
The time is at 4, and the location for now is 2371 in Eastman.
Thank you, Disembodied. It also goes up in the Slack, after calendar.
All right, so 2 last things. One, really quick, tonight is the series finale of Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls is not science fiction, and we're not going to fight on this. But if people are interested in having a group of people who are doing a screening, who want to hang out and watch it, please talk to the guy dressed as a giant triangle. Unofficial gathering of friends in which they are going to all simultaneously watch something.
Talk to the Illuminati.
Also, I'm sure most of you guys noticed, there's a laptop in the middle of the room. Wow. So, yes, it's a laptop. Become a computer engineer, or just talk to one. Anyway, the reason this is there is because we have a YouTube channel, which is Spacetime Adventures at RIT, or tinyurl.com/RIT*YouTube. Super easy. And it's got all of the PowerPoint karaoke videos from earlier this year, as well as our streams of all of our our missions, starting with Androids. Thank you. I knew you ran it. Starting with androids moving forward. Please, everyone who is watching at home, we are a college club and would appreciate polite discourse. Luke. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to the individuals who are running this meeting, one of which happens to be the lovely Cooper Hanson, and the other person actually is me, so let's get started. Who are you again? I am Ryan Morgenlander. I am a comms officer and tired. I also cannot find my mouse. There it is. Man, I am just all-star today. Okay, let's get started. So, for anyone who didn't see any of the posters, which actually that'd be kind of impressive, really. Today we're talking about late-night sci-fi cartoons, and I wanted to focus on content, which is why title screen is blank. Late-night sci-fi cartoons are basically adult science fiction cartoons. Not so much, like Star Trek or Torchwood, but more, Futurama, Robot Chicken, all that good stuff. So we're going to move right in with things that well-known franchises have done, which are the Family Guy Star Wars parodies. The first one I personally thought was really, really strong. The other two were okay.
They have their moments.
They definitely do, but a lot of it falls to a lot of common trappings with Family Guy, where they find a really funny joke and then they drag it out until you're not laughing anymore. Timing is everything. So we have one really strong opening, which is Blue Harvest, in my opinion. And then we have the other two, which are a pair of, kind of like barely passing. So I call them a parodies. I tried so hard. I love it. Never. What they do is they take they take essentially all of the Family Guy characters and then a bunch of the American Dad characters, because they run out of Family Guy characters, and they use them as different characters throughout the Star Wars franchise where they poke fun at a lot of the sillier moments of the original trilogy, which I really like, and they kind of do a Family Guy spin with the cutaways and the pop culture references that stop being funny after 5 years, and the jokes that, as I previously stated, stretch on and on and on.
Has it been confirmed whether or not they're going to do an episode 7 parody?
It is not. I really hope it isn't because, fun fact, they open It's a Trap with, yeah, I know this isn't going to be funny. We used all of our good jokes, but the executives up at Fox really wanted us to do a third one. It's not going to be very good, but bear with us. We don't like it either. Wow. At least you're admitted. Now I'm going to move on to a much better Seth Green property. Seth Green plays Chris, and he also is the head of Robot Chicken, which I absolutely adore. Robot Chicken does parodies of essentially anything you can think of. They landed an Angel the series reference in one of their shorts, which, if anyone knows, is a spin-off to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And they just get super obscure a lot of the time, and I really like it. In addition to their mascot being a chicken, which is also a robot, they tend to play to a lot of really fun sci-fi properties, such as Star Wars, the DC Universe. They've done the Terminator. They've done Inspector Gadget. They've done Inspector Gadget becoming the Terminator. Too violent. It wasn't super fun to show you guys, but look it up. It's great. They do a lot of anime. They do a lot of cartoons. They do a lot of classic literature, and they also do a lot of Star Trek, which is going to be one of the things that I'm going to show you right now. I think. Right now. There we go. Oh, God.
Red, sorry.
I see a lot of red.
Clean our ship approaching. Man faces, Mrs. Hulu.
Let's get it.
We've lost power. Mrs. Spock, quickly, tricorder reading. Florida, scanners. Check out. Red alert. Red alert. Commander, battle meeting. Now. Scotty, motors down. Hit me at the exit. Now. Hold down. Two, catches now. Fire torpedoes? Not yet.
God, that's great. There's a lot of significantly filthier, more brutal Star Trek parodies that I highly recommend you go home and look up that we weren't sure if we were allowed to show you today. It's humor in the same strain. It's kind of like that adolescent humor, which, we all kind of like stick our noses up. But at the end of the day, it's funny. It gets laughs. It's very visceral. And they use it to not only, like make just general jokes, but also poke fun at a lot of the franchises that they're referencing. Okay, now we're going to move from the just straight parody into the long-term series, shows that are made in the same vein, where it's a lot of humor and a lot of science fiction elements, but also an actual ongoing story that features, actual original characters as they move through this plot, which is generated by, just mountains and mountains of really clever nods to sci-fi tropes. And I'm going to let Cooper take it away as we move into Futurama.
Hey! Who has seen any episode of Futurama in your life? Okay, it's a good number of you. Who's seen all of it?
I'm pretty sure I've seen all
Nice, nice. Who cries? At least twice.
I cried at
There we
the
go.
Okay.
Futurama is an animated TV show created by Matt Groening and David Cohen, Matt Groening is a creator of Simpsons, and David Cohen is one of the main writers. Set in New York City, and it starts at the 31st century. It starts at 2999, then it moves to 3013 because everything's set in real time, but in the future, which was pretty cool. And so we're going to move on to the three main characters. There is a long recurring cast, but I want to focus on the three main The first one is this level of J Fry. I don't know what the J stands for. It's probably this J, as in the vein of Homer Simpson. But he is the main protagonist. Yes.
I was actually just reading before. Matt Growing's favorite middle initial is J. That he uses for a lot of characters. There was a reason for it, not the reason, but.
Oh, Matt Green probably has a reason.
For J.
It stands for G-A, J-A-Y. So we find out it's J. He's this series based on him. He's the one that gets cryogenically frozen on the New Year's Eve of 1999, and he gets sent back 1,000 years into the future. Basically, he's incompetent, but he has a heart of gold. He tries really hard sometimes. He's probably the greatest Star Trek fan still alive, which is because actually. In one of the episodes, Star Trek became a religion in the 23rd century, and it had
Come now.
more so than the audience. They had churches and everything, and everyone got sick of it. And they took the main cast of the original series and all the episodes that's ever been made, and they threw them up into space, to stove somewhere. And he's very impulsive. He eats food on his head because he feels like it, because he's also an idiot. Yes.
The J there, as in many other characters, is a reference to J for the creator Rocky Only. That is tribute.
Alright, cool. And he's a great video games because he spent most of his life playing video games, as most of us probably have already. So and apparently he made out of the radiator. Cool.
Well, radiators are quite hot.
Whoa.
Nice one. And move on to the next character of Miss She likes to hit things. Got the girl. Alright, that's it for that. Miss Tarangalila is the one of the other main characters in Fry's primary love interest. If you haven't seen the show, I'm not going to read any more about that. Also, what's thought to be, she was introduced as an alien, but you later find out that she's something entirely different, and that's a spoiler for the series as a whole. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Fun things, likes to snore, obviously likes to hit things a lot, and she's very good at martial arts and hand-to-hand combat. And as a cool fun fact, when she was a fate assignment officer, which is when you become old enough to have a job, they give you a job via they insert a chip into your palm very painfully. And she was the one that did that at the cryogenics lab that Fry came out of. And her fate assignment number was 1BDI, of a 1BDI, because she's Cyclops. And yes. And there's much more to her. She's also very impulsive, or not very impulsive, but she thinks she is, but no one else thinks she is. It's kind of a joke. But move on to the next character, arguably the most famous and most well-loved, Satan. What about that one? Caution, this video may be very dark.
I shall give you your army of the cat. And in return, I ask just one thing, just one itty-bitty thing. Your firstborn son. That's that. Wow, that was pretty brutal even by my standards.
Yes. Mr. Bender Bendine Rodriguez. Yes, it is his official canon name. He's apparently too brutal for the devil himself, so that goes on saying a lot about a character. He is a raging alcoholic, which, I mean, is good for him because robots in the Futurama verse run on alcohol. So when he gets sober, he starts acting like he's drunk because everything's backwards. He also likes to smoke. He's a chain smoker at most. Yeah, question? You have a question? Or no? All right.
It's just the smoking. He smokes because of.
Oh yeah, it makes him look cool. Yep. My favorite trivia about him, his favorite cause of death is being crushed to death by a big rig, driven by the Incredible Hulk. So like, he wants a lot of things, and apparently his famous quote is "Buy my show now, ass." Ass is his favorite word by a lot of lists, and that's basically it for our main characters. There's plenty of other recurring characters like Professor Farnsworth, which is Fry's long-lost nephew. I don't know how the genes work in that, but it's 1,000 years, a lot can happen. There's Amy Wong, a grad student that works at Panda Express. There's Henry Conrad, a Jamaican bureaucrat. There's Dr. Zoidberg, which is yes. If you need another character, why not Zoidberg? And then there's Scruffy, janitor, the most important character in the show. You just have to watch to find out. And obviously, the show runs. Basically, you can find a parody to any sci-fi thing in basically any episode. You gotta look. But the most blatant ones are Star Trek, as of the episode, which comes with religion. Star Wars, I can see that's Fry's wearing a helmet, very inspired by the Rebel pilot helmets that they used in the original trilogy. They parodied the Twilight Zone via the Scary Door. Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, 2001: Space Odyssey, even Adventure Time. Which, a funny thing about Adventure Time, the voice of Jake is the same voice actor as Bender, John DiMaggio, which is a fun fact. The Simpsons, obviously, they're created by the same guy. And interestingly, just about every famous celebrity in the Futurama universe, they have celebrity heads in jars that people can talk to, and they're fully functioning heads. So they've had a bunch of celebrities. Most of it even got like the 70s to voice them, as well as every U.S. president, which actually Richard Nixon becomes the president of Earth. He has a loophole where they say no body can run twice, but he's just a head, so he's able to run a third time. Yes. And again, a whole bunch of other stuff about. It's just you gotta dig. There's like references to Doom, Firefly, which is everyone's favorite apparently. It's Ryan's favorite, and Doctor Who, and I can't even think of that. Like I've reached a point where there's so much I can't even think of all of them because it's just you gotta like just look. There's references like little hidden things you can find throughout the whole series. And that's basically all I have. It's a fun show. Sadly, it's ended 2 years ago, or 3 years ago almost now. And I don't think it's going to be brought back. I personally don't want it to be brought back. It ended on a very good note. And you should go give it a watch if it's on Netflix. Yeah,
It ended before it ran out of ideas.
that's good. I actually don't want it. Yeah, I said before, like The Simpsons, like it's 27 years now. That's kind of too long. It's being drawn out. I don't want that to happen to this show. The show was as great as it was. Yes.
Comment on that, the Simpsons writers, the people that make the Simpsons don't actually want to make the Simpsons.
Yeah, it's probably like you do anything for 27 years, you're gonna get bored of it. And actually, another quick fun fact: most of the writers of Futurama actually have PhDs, and one of them actually had a PhD in mathematics. And for one episode, he actually invented a new math equation to prove that the scenario they had in the episode was mathematically possible, where they were switching bodies, and like when you switch bodies, they couldn't switch back with the same person. So they had to invent a math equation to see like any number of people can switch back to the original body using 2 extra people that weren't susceptible to the mind switching. That was it's called the Futurama theorem. You can read about it if you're into math. I think math's on fun science, but I don't have any homework about it. And that's basically Futurama in a very small nutshell. I can talk about the show for 2 hours, but we have to move on. So.
All right, now we're getting to what I'm really excited about, which is Rick and Morty. All right, who here doesn't watch Rick and Morty?
What's wrong with it?
Why?
I love Rick and Morty. I'm going to try my best to avoid spoilers. The thing is, since something new is introduced every episode, it's entirely possible that I'm definitely going to talk about a couple things. I'm definitely not talking about the season finale of season 2 because all right, so let's talk about Rick and Morty, which I actually think is the best show on TV right now.
Not right now.
On TV right now.
I mean, currently in its running period, as in it hasn't been canceled, nor has it ended.
The word is hiatus.
But it's not like on hiatus because it's been confirmed for another season. It's just not.
It's not over.
It's not over. It's still going. It's the best show that continues to be a show. Now that we're done with awful technicalities, I want to talk about the main characters, which obviously people are going to point out as Rick and Morty as the main characters, but over the course of season 2 and even towards the end of season 1, they started branching out into adding Summer as one of the main companions of Rick and Morty, because Morty has gradually become more and more jaded to the whole space thing, so they need a fresh set of eyes, which comes to the sense of Summer. One of the best things about this show is how well they write the characters. They all feel really human, particularly Beth and Jerry, who I'm going to get to later. You have, so you've got Summer, the stereotypical teenager who's really, she is aware of what she wants to be aware of, but also kind of blind to a lot of the complexities inherent in the world. She sees things as very black and white but then realizes that things are significantly more complex. Do people care about individual spoilers except for the big one? No? Oh, cool.
No one is born on purpose. No one belongs anywhere.
No one's born on purpose. Everyone's gonna die. Come watch TV with us.
Those aren't spoilers for Rick and Morty.
That's
They're
not-
just spoilers for life.
Those are just cold, hard
I haven't
facts.
seen the rest of life yet.
So,
I wake up every morning 40 feet from my own grave.
we're borderline. Anyway, Summer, they visit a planet called, that is entirely occupied by a single mind. It's a hive mind that has taken over the rest of the entire Earth, or the entire planet. But what she sees as slavery becomes a lot more complex because when those people are let free, they start a race war.
Like 30 seconds in.
Yeah.
Another Summer seeing stuff in black and white thing would be like that episode where she's stuck in the ship for like
Protect Summer.
So
Oh my
the ship is designed to protect Summer, keep Summer safe. So someone starts harassing the ship, so the ship kills them. Summer says, "Don't kill people." So the next person is just their legs are destroyed, are crippled. They'll never walk again. So she says, "Don't physically harm people." So they psychologically destroy the one of the heads of the military.
No. It was a police officer.
It was a police officer.
But it wasn't the ship doing it. So
Yeah, psychologically destroyed.
The show has his son that drowned earlier come back to life and drowning, turns the liquid in his arms. He destroys the man. It's just like, oh my god.
The show's kind of messed up.
The moral of the story is you ruin everything when you try not to hurt people.
Exactly, and that's I think it leans on a lot of really interesting themes that are actual just facts about life, where
Specifically ruin ice cream.
by setting out to be this level of perfection, you end up causing a lot of harm because no matter what happens, bad things are going to happen. The key is to just not think about the overwhelming consequences of your actions on the multiverse, because then you won't be able to live at all. You know, what about the universe where Hitler cured cancer? The answer is to not think about it.
Morty is going to do the same thing, and he tries to save like single life form. In the process, like destroys a city block and like kills by thousands of people. He saved that one dude he signed to, so it's all fine, right? Now, it's a gray area.
That, I mean, every episode is a great episode. Then we talk about that later.
And almost every episode is a gray area.
Yeah, there's not an instance of that in the Purge episode. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna be talking about that. I'm gonna be talking about like what directly they're parodying in a bunch of the different episodes. Yeah, Morty is a lot like Summer, although over the course of the show you see him become a lot more aggressive, which makes sense. He's a kid. He's in puberty. He thinks about girls. A lot.
Do you have a picture plot?
Rick Potion number 9 is amazing. It's one of the best episodes.
Yeah, he was found in the kitchen.
Oh, that's something different. Basically the key is that all of the main characters in Rick and Morty are bad people, but they try. Well, most of them. They try, and that's what makes you end up rooting for them. It's very much a show of anti-heroes, and who better as an anti-hero than a Rick Sanchez? Rick Sanchez is the smartest person in the universe. Well, this Rick C-137, which I will be getting into later, is the smartest being in our universe. He has outsmarted the devil as well as any alien race he's come across. He led a rebellion against the Galactic Alliance, and is widely considered to be a war hero by everyone he served with. He's drunk, he's an asshole, he's misogynistic, really he's misanthropic, he just hates everyone.
For the love of God, listen to what he has to say.
And I read an interview with Dan Harmon, the creator of the show, also creator of Community, which they referenced in one of the episodes. Great show. And Rick is you. Every time you are standing in a grocery line and the person in front of you doesn't understand what an expired coupon means, when people in front of you online at the bank are depositing their life savings in pennies, every time you are confronted by stupidity and all you want to do is shove them aside and show that you can do it better because how slow they're operating frustrates you. That's Rick all the time. And that's what makes him bitter. But that also is why a lot of people like Rick. And over the course of season 2, you see him open up emotionally a lot, which is heartbreaking. The episode with Unity ends on a really, really low note that I'm not going to get into, but it makes you feel a lot of things.
We talked about it last week.
Did we?
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we started to, but then we had to wait to this mission.
He essentially tries and fails to commit suicide, and it's really dark and really sad and really emotional, which is something that I feel this show does a lot better than a lot of other adult cartoons. Now, I haven't watched Futurama, and from what Cooper has told me, Futurama also hits those very powerful emotional notes, but I have never seen a show do it with the level of skill as Rick and Morty. Speaking of emotional notes,
favorite marriage.
So I adore Beth and Jerry. I think they're great. They are husband and wife, parents of Morty and Summer. Rick is Beth's estranged father who vanished for 20 years, comes back, lives at their house, much to the chagrin of Jerry Smith. Jerry Smith is a word. He is an incompetent, pathetic little man who tries really, really hard to be better than he is. But the sad thing is he just comes off as really uncomfortable. He's every business major that you don't like. Where's the lie?
They don't like.
He's the used car salesman that tries to be cool.
His balloon game is on Android for free.
I will talk about Rick and Morty games on the Android or on the Android operating system later. Because Pocket Mortys is an excellent game. I highly recommend you pick it up. So Beth is a
accomplished individual. She's a horse surgeon. And yeah, she's a horse surgeon. And the thing is, Jerry got Beth pregnant when they were teenagers in high school. That's why she never became a doctor. And she always kind of resents him for that, and they both resent Summer for being born to an extent. And they essentially hate each other. This kind of really broken marriage is not something that I've seen a lot in film or TV, because usually that's the basis. It's this relationship is unhealthy, and then one of them finds love. This relationship is unhealthy, but they keep it going for their own sake. And I think that's absolutely amazing. Because in a lot of episodes, when things go to absolute shit, Rick Potion number 9, where Rick and Morty accidentally start the apocalypse, and they create Cronenbergs everywhere. Episode where they go to intergalactic marriage counseling, which is amazing. Where they do a lot of really cool references to Alien, the movie Alien, and also features the Prince Dean from Community. Whenever things are looking really, really bad, they always manage to reignite their love for each other, which I find really, really interesting, because the day-to-day life is Morty and Summer having a conversation of, do you think that Mom and Dad are going to get a divorce? I don't know, I've been waiting for years. It's so established that they don't like each other that every time they manage to pull together and become an actual family unit, it gives you hope. And then reality, we kind of jump back to reality, and everything kind of falls apart.
Beth tells Jerry, I'm only doing this until Morty's out of high school.
Yeah.
They're codependent.
Oh my God, they're codependent! The show. I have a lot of personal reasons why I really like their relationship, and I find it really interesting. Mostly because I prioritize character dynamics over anything in my TV. So, this is something else that Rick and Morty does really cool. This is, yes, 5 or 6 Ricks and a whole bunch of Mortys in the background. The show is very open in the idea that it exists in a multiverse. Rick is not the only Rick. There are lots of Ricks, so many Ricks that are so brilliant that they come together to form a council of Ricks in the multiverse. And each Rick, most Ricks come with a Morty, because Morty is so dumb that his brainwaves negate Rick's super intelligent brainwaves. Well, at least that's what Rick tells him. You can't really trust Rick, to be entirely honest, and we might get into that later if we have time. There are a couple of really, really interesting conspiracy theories. But the infinite multiverse idea is something that's really cool, that they play with a lot, one of which they basically ruin the universe that they're in. Instead of finding some deus ex machina to fix it and go back to the status quo, they find another universe in which Rick and Morty die and just bury the bodies and take their place. To which Rick then responds, I can only do this 3 or 4 more times.
Futurama has done something similar where they go forward in time so much that another big bang happens, and then they do it again, and then they land, they get. I know, I'm talking about Futurama, the reference.
Yes.
They go back to Planet Express headquarters, and in the Futurama verse, your counterpart is doomed to a point where they're going to die or get maimed horribly, and so apparently the third universe they're in is 10 feet lower, so their ship they're in falls and crushes the Professor Fry and Bender, solving the paradox, so they just bury the bodies and continue on with their lives.
So they do a lot of really cool things with the show. They do a lot of really cool things with the infinite multiverse, and it gives them a lot of opportunities to play with, the perfect match for Rick, which is himself. They also play into a lot of comedic. They use this for a lot of comedic devices. One is dropping Jerry off at Jerry Daycare with all of the other Jerrys that Ricks drop off because they don't want to deal with them. Where they are led around by someone wearing essentially the equivalent of theme park mascot outfit, but it's Bat.
And yes.
The best part of that is that Rick resents another Rick because he's making so much money off of that.
The Ricks have their own economy, where they buy, sell, and trade Mortys, where they offer Morty insurance policies, as well as coupons for additional Mortys should their Morty get destroyed. Bless this show. Another thing they do really well, in addition to really fleshing out all the major characters, they give all of the minor characters little, real personalities that make them all really interesting. I tried to focus on characters who are in multiple episodes, with the exception of the Devil, because he's the Devil, and Rick first outsmarts him, driving the Devil to try and commit suicide. And then, when that fails, just straight beating the shit out of him. He gets jacked up, uses steroids, finds the Devil, and just punches the daylights out of him. And it's awesome. And also Summer.
Also, it has extra gimmick to it.
Yeah. Other fun characters include Squanchy, who is from a planet where every third or fourth word is replaced with squanch.
Well, it's contextual. The word squanch doesn't really mean anything.
I believe they were going for a reference to South Park, where there is a planet called Marklar, where every person, place, or thing is all named Marklar, and it's about the same level. There's
also Spurs.
Yeah. There's Mr. Poopy Butthole, who is...
I don't remember this character.
Mr. Poopy Butthole is a really interesting character and is introduced in Total Recall, which is the best episode in the series and has the perfect punchline, which I am not spoiling because it's too good. There's Bird Person, who is introduced in Season 1 as just this really wholesome person who has a really long history with Rick, which kind of is almost, I want to say almost Vulcan-like. He's very detached, very monotone speech patterns, but through that, he manages to convey so much of Rick's story and Rick's pain, including his catchphrase, Wubba Lubba Dub Dub, which is from bird culture, which means help, I am in pain. He sheds a lot of light on Rick, where the rest of Rick's family only see him as being an asshole. Quote unquote, all Rick's moves are dick moves. There's Mr. Goldenfold, Morty's math teacher. He is the stereotypical, really awkward, insecure math teacher. There's an entire episode where they go into his brain, and it's a roller coaster. Bitch. Bitch. I'm actually going to reference that on the next slide, where I talk about how many amazing parodies they do. Now, I'm sure Futurama has also done, also had an amazing number, but how many seasons did Futurama have?
7 official and a season of 4 movies.
There have been 2 13-episode seasons of Rick and Morty, and they have managed to cram so much in, including a lot of obscure stuff that I wasn't expecting, such as Lawnmower Dog, where the Rick invents a helmet to make the dogs more intelligent, which they become then super intelligent and wreak havoc on the humans, which is a reference to Lawnmower Man, which is a movie in which a mentally retarded man essentially does the same thing, where he achieves super intelligence and then wreaks havoc on all those who mistreated him.
At least he had his testicles, though.
Yeah, he did. Where are my testicles,
Summer?
There's Anatomy Park, which is a parody of Jurassic Park, where they go inside of...
Pirates of the Pancreas.
Pirates of the Pancreas. It's obviously a reference to Jurassic Park. I mean, look at the logo. But it's also... I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they reference Body Wars, which is a Disney... which used to be a Disney... Walt Disney World ride, where you go inside of a body and...
That was not a reference to Body Wars. That was a reference to Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful thing.
Which is also referenced by Body Wars.
Yes. I don't even pick up on everything. It's amazing. They also do a lot of little nods that Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, the creators, even say. A lot of times people come up to us and go, did you mean to include this? And we go, no, the animators did. If you look at the hairstyles on the Council of Ricks, these are reference to the Guardians of Oa, which are the intergalactic law enforcement who run the Green Lantern Corps in the DC Comics.
Who does that? Almost every episode is a play on something. You've got Rick Minutes, which is widely considered to be one of the best, where the entire episode, or 90% of the episode, was improvised TV commercials by the voice actors.
And you got Interdimensional TV 1 and 2.
Yeah, there's close encounters of the Rick kind, where we're introduced to the Captain
Total Recall.
There's Total Recall, a play on Total Recall, because both of which have to do with altering your memories and forgetting your past. Yes.
The real animated adventures of Doc and Marty.
Okay, so yes, actually we do. Okay, so before Rick and Morty was Rick and Morty, it was the Adventures of Doc and Marty. Marty being spelled M-A-H-R-T-Y-I.
Doc Smith and Marty McDonald's.
Exactly. It was obviously a super obvious play on Doc and Marty from Back to the Future. Yep, they got shut down. But
they chose not to go the cease and desist thing. It's like that's why they changed the name, right?
Yeah. Not only that, they also changed. I think they were intending for it to be a much stronger direct parody of Back to the Future. Doc and Marty being Rick and Morty. Although there is a box of time travel stuff in Rick's garage, which is a reference to the fact that they will never do a time travel story. If you want to know why, look at episode 1 of season 2, where they don't do time travel, but they do timeline differentiation, which results in the animators drawing 64 different panels across the screen, each of them slightly different than the others. It's got a lot of replay value. There's, oh god, I can't even think of all of them. Autoerotic Assimilation, which is the episode of Unity, where she assimilates the entirety of the planet. There's, oh god, every episode is a play on a title of something. And there's so many clever references. There's, the super obvious plots, and then there's just the little nods to other science fiction themes and tropes. I just really like the show. I think that the story carries it a lot stronger than it has any right to, and that you get really invested in the characters whenever something really emotional happens, hits you.
You just don't expect it from like. You just don't expect it from like the title. Like when I first saw like Rick and Morty, like for like the promos for season 1 on Adult Swim, was like, oh, what's this crap? It's gonna be another like super little sci-fi show. Then I started watching it. It's like, this shit's amazing. So it comes at you like you don't expect it at all, and the show has high hopes. And I really hope it goes like the 6 seasons of the movie, or possibly more. But I mean,
you can say it shows you what it has.
Yeah.
I think you need to show what it got. Well, I just think that it's really interesting that the show, like you said, it like takes like sci-fi tropes, but then it immediately takes them and turns them on their head. Like the 2 best examples that I can think of are in Tiny Rick. They begin like, oh,
yeah, Tiny Rick!
Tiny motherfucking Rick!
They start the episode talking about like how the gym teacher is a vampire, and it leads you to think like, oh my god, it's gonna be a vampire hunting episode. Whoa, that's so cool. And then in the next shot, they're like, well, we got him, and then they take the plot in a totally different direction.
They also, in the stinger, openly mocked the fact, wow, I can't believe Coach Ferratu was a vampire. Which it then cuts to the vampire base. Wait, was that his real name or his code name? That was his code name. Why would he do that? From now on, they're like Davids and Richards, okay? No more of this Dr. Acula or Coach Ferratu business.
They don't reference it again until after the episode's over.
Oh, it's so good. Tiny Rick is also a really great reference to, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but there was a recent movie which I watched, and now I can't think of the name, of Ryan Reynolds and...
Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, that's good.
Ryan...
Who's that?
Ryan Reynolds, basically a rich entrepreneur is told, hey, we grew you another body so that when this one dies, you can just transfer it to the other one. Thank you, Selfless. I watched it, it was really mediocre, but they play with the same idea of Rick moving into a younger version of Rick, and what that does to him. And it's beautiful.
My body, please let me out.
I'm dying in a garage.
This is not a dance.
I'm so sorry for anyone who hasn't watched this show that has no idea that like of half the references that we're making right now.
This is not a dance. Please let me out.
This is not a dance. And I think that's everything. We actually have a bunch of time left, so I'll take any questions, and then I will geek out about my Rick and Morty conspiracy theories.
I can also aid in your
drop my mouse.
Yes. So, what do you think of the idea that Rick and Morty and the idea of is basically a Catcher in the Rye done correctly, where your main character is an asshole that you really shouldn't like, and he's a really like untrustable author of his own story?
So I think that that's a consequence of the medium that it doesn't work because we are inherently going to trust the narrator because we're seeing what happens rather than just hearing what happens from the book. Also, I love Catcher in the Rye. How dare you?
That was annoying. So all four of these shows that you mentioned rely heavily on comedy and parody. But if you look at other things, like there's plenty of cartoons that can be serious, and plenty of tons of sci-fi that can be serious, and even in the like younger audience, is some cartoon sci-fi that can be serious. But we don't really see a lot of animated sci-fi with adult themes being played straight. Do you think there's a reason that I think it could be done well?
Yes. Because
anime.
I think that has a lot to do with our culture, where who can name a serious cartoon for adults?
Serial Experiments Lane? No, that's an anime. It's a cartoon.
That's why. Okay, ignoring anime because
cartoon. Real photo that
okay,
series.
Dropping anime. I'm going to get to anime in a minute, but.
BoJack Horseman is also kind of a comedy.
Yeah, no, these things are all played to comedy because that's what our society expects out of a cartoon. They expect it to be focused on children, or at the very least, just being.
Yeah, we're talking.
Well, it is lighthearted, but I'm losing my thoughts. Well, Archer is what?
Archer is played to comedy.
No,
So that's what I'm saying. Even adult one, but like kids ones, there's all the DC cartoons, almost all of them. And
I know
so what I'm getting at is that we as like overall, and I think we're slowly moving away from this, but we're not ready to accept the idea of a serious cartoon. Now, obviously, this is not the case in Japan, where anime is huge, and you get things like Big O and Trigun and Ghost in the Shell and other things I can't name because I'm not into anime.
Right? We have funny cartoons.
In there's a lot of science fiction anime that is very serious because that's something that they are accustomed to. That's not something that we're accustomed to.
I think that's because we have a long history of serious sci-fi shows, not anime shows, but shows in general. Like, if we see something animated, we want to break from that, so we want to laugh. So when you turn the animation to make things funny. But if you do much more things visually with animation, you can do like live action things. But like, we could start turning that and make serious cartoon shows, but I mean...
Especially when you look at all of the super serious DC animated movies, straight to, I mean, I guess it's Blu-ray now, straight to Blu-ray.
I mean, Killing Jokers would be rated R.
Yeah, you get a lot of things. We're definitely getting better, but I think that's still like a road that we are currently on.
What about the Filmation Star Trek series?
What?
Back in the 70s, there was like Filmation did like an animated continuation of the original Star Trek
What were the
series.
animations?
Oh god.
So I have actually.
Is it? It's the Animatrix is they went to a bunch of famous anime creators and asked them to write stories in the Matrix universe.
Yeah, it's basically a collection of short stories about the Matrix.
Well, I know that I thought the Animatrix were American made. I didn't think it was
No, they weren't.
So-
All of them weren't. Yeah.
Real quick, a note on Star Trek: The Animated Series. So it's like you can't say it's aimed at adults, though. I do think that the animated series actually is still sort of aimed at kids, even though they try really, really hard in the animated series to keep the storylines of the same quality as Star Trek was. the way the dialogue is written, the way the lessons come to you, it's definitely, they aim for a slightly lower audience, and I believe they used to be on Saturday mornings and everything.
Do they ever succeed, beat the evil aliens with the power of friendship?
I don't believe so. Normally Star Trek's a little bit smarter than that.
Hey, what did you guys do?
But I also wanted to comment on what Cameron said. Cameron, how can there be such a thing as a reliable narrator in the universe that Rick and Morty has created? There's no such thing as truth in this universe. It doesn't happen.
Well, there's the concept of not having truth, and then there's the concept of Rick fucking with people for the sake of fucking with people.
I think Rick is the beacon of honesty. He's just an asshole about it. It's just like, whatever he tells you, you probably should listen, but the way he tells you, you don't want to listen to him.
You can't trust him, but also if you
should.
don't listen,
you die.
But also, sometimes he's wrong, and I think that's the most interesting of all.
Yeah.
There's Rick Potion number 9 where he screws up, or my favorite, Me Seeks and Destroy, where he tells them, hey, keep your requests for the Me Seeks simple. And then you've got Beth and Summer. Summer wants to become more popular in school. Beth wants to find her inner woman. And neither of these are both of these are very, complex, elaborate. Jerry wants to take 2 strokes out of his golf game. That one almost doesn't happen.
It's like, that was very simple, but since it's Jerry, he requires like 30 music to even try.
Also, Rick and Morty does a lot of really cool things where they talk about the meaning of life and purposes, where Morty talks about how, there is no purpose, everyone's going to die. Don't worry about it. There's Rick, where whose apathy gives him a lot of power, which is reflected on my third person, talking to Morty. And there's also the Meeseeks, which are an alien race, which are born into this world with a singular purpose. Once that purpose is completed, they vanish. Their goal in life is to die. The line is, I just want to die. We all want to die. We're Meeseeks. Which raises a lot of questions about, it's this kind of really interesting absurdism that makes you kind of question the relevance of your own existence, which is why I just don't think about it. John?
2 things. 1, he has a question.
I think that my head's been raised since the whole thing earlier.
Alright, what's up?
Secondly, was chat intentionally disabled on the last stream? No, it is disabled.
Okay, so a bit late now, but it's definitely something we'll look into.
What is your question?
Did you know how long this goes up? It's been up since the whole thing of there's been no serious adult cartoons.
What?
Over the Garden Wall.
Over the Garden Wall was not, even if it's a show, even if it was, first of all, haven't seen it. Second of all, sorry,
It's great.
it's on the list.
Is that the one with the giant art?
But it's on Cartoon Network. It was designed to be, at the very least, family friendly. They aired it prime time, like 7 or 8 at night, on Cartoon Network. That a lot like Steven Universe, it's a kids show that's dealing with a lot of really interesting, mature ideas. This is just from what I picked up on it, because I personally don't have any experience.
So this is why I was bringing it up. Like, the first half is super lighthearted. Then the second half, the lighthearted is out the window, he's no longer lighthearted. So it is actually not a lighthearted series whatsoever.
Do you mean Steven Universe?
It's still
More so than Steven Universe from what I've heard.
It's still a show that was being targeted at least somewhat at a younger audience. We're talking about ones that are rated like TV, MA, and have like sex and drugs and alcohol.
Oh, Futurama and Rick and Morty both TV-14, right?
Or TV-14 at least.
And I think that's a real problem, is that what makes a show for adults instead of for kids? It's the violence and the drugs.
I like an example of Adventure Time, which, at its base, it's like a fun little show with like magic and friends, and it's adventures of a boringest dog. But if you look into it, it's set 1,000 years after a post-nuclear apocalypse, so there's layers of everything. It's just like,
Their world is so cool.
Because that guy was crazy.
because Pendant of the War, that's why. So it's like any show can have layers to it that you can dig into, and at its top layer, it can be something for kids.
but like you can find something that's dark and twisted, like genocide or massacres or just like anything. I think one of the problems with identifying an adult show versus a non-adult show is a lot of things that make a show an adult show are also things that make it a little more comedic.
But they don't have to be comedic. There are plenty of like higher rated movies or live action things that focus on these things without going to comedy, going more to drama, focusing on these things. And it's something that cartoons could do, but they don't seem to want to.
When I think of adult shows that focus on sex and drugs, all I think of is Skins.
Wow.
I don't know why that's what comes to mind.
Is that all you can think of?
I mean, no. Things that focus on sex and drugs. I mean,
Well, like, you know what would have been crazy if it was animated? Like, Mad Men would have been crazy if it was animated.
I feel like it would have been hard to hit the same tone. Animation and live action are very different mediums. And I think that changed it a lot. Like, I feel like Breaking Bad would have lost some of its strength. Were it animated.
There was a reason
cartoon that doesn't.
Who's seen Anomalisa?
You don't get the message across.
What? Anomalisa. It came out like late last year.
I heard good things about it.
It's like stop. It's almost like stop motion animation, but like it's kind of like Robot Chicken, where they use like puppeteers almost like I think. But it's like rated R, so it deals with like serious stuff, but it's technically animated. So I mean, it's an animated movie at least.
The point is, these production companies should be better. Also, side note, since tonight is a Gravity Falls finale, there's a really quick nod to Gravity Falls in Rick and Morty.
There's two.
You're right, there are two. There's an outline of Bill Cipher in one of the episodes.
The marriage counseling episode, when you see the main counselor who's typing away on the computer to bring up their counter personalities, you can see on the computer screen the outline of Bill Cipher with like a pyramid and like a top hat on it.
There's also an episode in Gravity Falls in which Grunkle Stan opens a portal and loses a cup, a pencil, and a notepad. And then, in Rick and Morty, when they're hopping through portals, in the background, one of the portals spits out a teacup, pen, and a notepad. This is not establishing that they exist in the same multiverse. This is just Alex Hirsch and Justin Roiland being really good friends. But it's still really cool.
Also, Alex Hirsch played Toby in that one episode. So, they're like best buds. They didn't make a movie together.
Oh man, with Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon also does a really sweet reference to Community in one of the episodes where Rick is watching TV on the planet that Unity is controlling, and he goes, "Great, now cancel it. Okay, now bring it back. Now cancel it again. Now bring it back. Now make them all make fun of the blonde one." Like watch Community. It's just so good.
Futurama has like 3 series finales.
Yeah, it happens a lot. I really hope that doesn't happen with Rick and Morty. I want to see them succeed because I think that Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland work really well to balance each other out. Because Dan Harmon is really good at the over-the-top comedic stuff, and like they're both really good at being over-the-top, and they both want to be emotional at different times, and that kind of balances it out. I feel like if Seth MacFarlane had someone to tell him, maybe we shouldn't do that, I feel like that would be a lot better all the time.
Like American Dad?
Here's opening. Yeah, American Dad is solid.
Also, somewhat sci-fi.
Also,
Andre
sci-fi.
Alien is the main character.
Oh yeah.
That's the best character.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
And all of these guys, all of them are the best characters, right?
Well, only the ones that have a different personality that creates the character for themselves.
That's the best episode.
Yeah, that's fun.
I want to talk real quick about the science fiction elements in Archer, because Archer is definitely not sci-fi in genre, but it is impossible to deny once you get spaceships and androids and holographic anime waifus.
Would you like to come up here and talk about it?
No, I just want to talk about
I've only seen one of it, Archer, but it's almost like Archer is like in a spy genre, which spy movies like James Bond tend to drift towards like futuristic technology to immortalize sci-fi. So Archer is like that, but dramatized to a comedic point, but the arc itself is this parody of spy movies in general. So it's just, that could be said for that reason.
It's good though.
Any other, we can talk about anime if you guys want.
Okay, so we have like 20 minutes left. Are people okay with me talking about? Oh, okay.
Talk about the Rick and Morty Android games.
Oh yeah, Rick and Morty. All right, so Jerry in all of season 2 doesn't have a job. As a result, he is a stereotypical, really annoying, unemployed person.
Get a job, Jerry.
So one of the things he does to occupy his time is play balloon game, in which balloons scroll across the screen and he pops them. And every couple that he pops, he gets points for. They decided that they needed to make a game out of it.
I can showcase it for you.
It's called Jerry's Balloon Game. It's the dumbest thing I have ever done, and I played Nekoatsume.
No. Take it back.
Nekoatsume is so great, it's also literally doing nothing.
Exactly.
But I love it.
Great.
Anyway, there's also Pocket Mortys. Pocket Mortys is essentially Pokemon, but they boil it down. For example, instead of different types having a rock, paper, scissors relationship, there are literally rock Mortys, paper Mortys, and scissor Mortys. There's the idea is that you as Rick are trying to catch all of the different types of Mortys, and you can fuse Mortys to make better Mortys. Look at me, I'm Rick. And you go around beating what are essentially gym leaders, and the whole game is absolutely ridiculous. I highly recommend it. You don't have to spend money. I have managed to get up to the 3rd or 4th gym leader without spending any money, and it's just a lot of fun. Great way to kill time. And my favorite part of it is that there is a Morty called Ad Space Morty. Ad Space Morty, what is Ad Space Morty initially advertised?
Apples.
Hungry for Apples, which is Jerry's advertising campaign, and it's Morty with one of those giant billboard things, like the wearable signs. And then advertising Morty evolves into Jerry's Game Morty, where the advertisement becomes an advertisement for Jerry's Balloon Game, which is available in the App Store. But then Jerry's Balloon Game Morty evolves into Pocket Morty's Morty, which is a Morty with a sign advertising Pocket Mortys, which you are playing. And, oh my god, the whole show is really meta. The episode where they're watching TV and all the ads are improvised, Rick comments that it's almost like the whole thing has a looser, more improvisational tone, staring directly into the camera. Rick and Morty is really self-aware, and I'm really excited to see where it picks up after what happened at the end of the season, which you should all go watch, because, oh boy, I really want to know.
Before it starts up again.
Okay, so,
About a year and a half or so.
all right,
Maybe longer.
I'm going to geek out about Rick and Morty conspiracy theories because, oh man. All right, so at the end of towards the end of season 1, in Closer Encounters of the Rick Kind, you are introduced to the Council of Ricks because someone is going around killing Ricks and taking their Mortys. This is revealed to be an evil Rick, the evilest of Ricks, which our Rick from C-137, is not too far off from. Now it's revealed that that Rick is not Rick at all, but rather a robot designed by Evil Morty, which is Morty but with an eye patch. The perfect alternate universe evil parenting trope. God bless. Oh man, I didn't talk about this search. Whatever. So the theory is that Morty is our Rick's original Morty. During that episode, a device is put on his head where he experiences all of his old memories. One of which is him holding what looks like a baby Morty, which makes sense. You know, he's got the sentimental fondness for his grandson. until you realize that Rick has been gone for 20 years and came back that year. Morty's only 15, he's not, which means Rick was never there. The theory is that their Rick from the original dimension died, and that this is a Rick from an alternate dimension. Another point that, another piece of evidence that pushes this theory is in the episode "Show Me What You Got," or sorry, "Get Swifty," where
Show me what you got.
thank you. In which giant floating heads are all force the Earth onto a
Space American Idol.
Space American Idol called Planet Music, which I realize is essentially Win, Lose, or Kaboom from Jimmy Neutron, if anyone remembers that.
Oh.
So, Morty manages to run away and find Bird Person, which was established in an earlier episode. And he talks to Bird Person and he asks Bird Person if Bird Person would be able to rescue the rest of his family, abandoning Rick. Morty then looks at a picture on Bird Person's wall where you see Rick holding, again, what looks like to be a baby Morty. And then Bird Person says, "Morty, imagine if I could get you and your family now. How often do you think you would look up to the sky and wonder what could have happened had you only believed in Rick?" And what I think that is basically that's what happened to Rick, where he got out at the cost of his old Morty. What he didn't know is that Morty then came back as evil Morty. And it's this big theory, and I think it's really interesting. One of the opening scenes in the show, one of the opening credit scenes is Morty getting left behind to be eaten by these giant weird toad lizard things, and a lot of people point to that and say that's what happened. I don't know about that. I think the opening credits are just for the sake of the opening credits, except in Total Recall where they're integrated into the show because of course they were. Yes.
Another comment of things that you see on Bird Person's wall. There's or maybe this is from Total Recall. Oops. There's a picture of Rick and Bird Person and Squanchy all in a band, which I believe is called the Flesh Curtains.
I didn't know the band name. That's kind of amazing.
I'm pretty sure they're called Flesh Curtains.
I've seen people with like sweatshirts with the, yeah. I need a Flesh Curtain sweatshirt.
Things I never thought I'd hear anyone say.
It's amazing. I wish I had never heard of that.
Yes, that was also another picture on Bird Person's wall. And during the season finale of season 2, where they go to Bird Person's wedding, Bird Person explains that him, Rick, and Squanchy were all veterans of this war and are still wanted by the Federation. So there's definitely a lot more to Rick. And you see it in that episode, you definitely see it in the finale, holy shit. You see it in, not Total Recall, you see it in Autoerotic Assimilation, you see it in the episode before it, whose name I can't place. Can somebody help me out?
49 Run, I think?
Which what's the episode?
I don't remember, I just remember there were a lot of feels. It was the one before the episode of Unity.
The one where Rick and Summer go to that planet with the monsters on it.
You mean Raising Zorpazorp?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Raising Zorpazorp? Because I'm not.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
I'm just gonna look it up.
Wait,
but
was that season 1 or season?
Raising the Zorpazorp was season 2. I'm thinking of season 1. Or sorry, reverse that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Morty Night Run where. Yes. Where Morty tries to do good and ends up causing a lot of pain. And Rick. Yes, the alien is called Fart. It is a sentient gas cloud called Fart. And there are just a lot of really interesting emotional ideas there. I lost my train of thought entirely. Is there anything else that I would like to talk about? Yes.
I mean, you talk about this, like, a little bit of support for the idea that, like, Rick, our current Rick, is not the same, like, belong to that universe. And, you know, at the end of Rick Potion 9, like, he immediately knows how many more times they can use that solution. So, like, I mean, it could be that he looked into it prior, or it could be that instead of 4 going to 3, it was 5 going to 4.
That makes a lot of sense. It is entirely possible that he left an entire universe behind. Maybe Birdperson and Swanchy did the same, and that's why they know him so well. And I really don't know what happened. Nobody does. It's really interesting.
It's yet to be revealed.
Nobody knows. Jessica Rowland and Dan Harmon in an interview said that they wrote the entire show with this idea in mind and then decided not to use it. So there are vague hints to something that will never happen. It might have been this. Well, we will never know because they hate us. Yes, sorry.
I think about it stuff, but I don't remember there's a scene in the Evil Rick episode where while we remembers, our Rick is torturing Rick. And that's never happened in the show.
Yeah.
That scene. So it is like that is like a big reason why people think the evil Morty is the original Morty theory is true, because that he, I guess, the cause of mistreated Morty.
There's also another really interesting theory where it's because he lost his original Morty that his original Morty turned evil, and that's why he keeps telling Morty that he's stupid. Not because it's true, but because instead this is to keep him safe, because should Morty ever become too ambitious, it could end very, very badly.
Those mega seeds you shoved way up inside his butt.
Way up in your ass.
He's still smart from those mega seeds.
There's a theory that Rick's alcohol is not alcohol, but rather megaseed juice, because he explains in episode 1 that megaseed juice gives you enormous intelligence until it goes away, and then it leaves you essentially like a vegetable. Yeah, and that's why he keeps drinking it. And that's why he needed the megaseed juice. He said they were for very important research. Well, if you keep drinking them, you can do all sorts of research.
And so, like, the obvious drunken actions are just a ploy?
Yes.
He's a master of the drunken fist.
Rick is also shown to be super effective not only in combat, but specifically hand-to-hand. When he beats up Alien, played by Stephen Colbert. What a great episode. So he invented an entire universe.
A microverse.
A microverse.
A miniverse.
No. He made all right. So Rick. All right. So here's why everyone's saying this. Rick made a microverse, which is a tiny universe inside of his car battery, which will generate power not only for them, but a lot of it runs off into the car. That stops happening because in that universe they have a scientist who develops a mini-verse, which generates power that powers their world. But then that stops working because in the mini-verse they created a tiny verse where they could generate power. And it's really interesting as you see Rick come face to face with not only his own creation, but his greatest fear, his own creation that is as smart as he is. Or so almost.
I didn't know where I was going to go.
What?
I was so disappointed. I didn't know where I was going to go. I thought at the end it could be revealed that our universe is in another universe.
Nah, Rick is
Men in Black 2? No, Men in Black 2, it's revealed that our entire universe is actually in a
Number 1, we're in Marvel. Our galaxy's in the Marvel. And then number 3, a satellite doesn't go.
In 3, I didn't see it.
It's better than 2.
Wow, okay, I'll have to see it. Yay. Rick and Morty specifically does not have time travel, and I think it's really
I
neat.
mean, also, Futurama has had time travel episodes. They travel back in, they accidentally travel back in time to Roswell, New Mexico, where Dr. Zoidberg ends up being the Roswell alien, and Bender's body is the ship they found. So then they have to they play up we can't influence anything. This is also the episode where Fry becomes his own grandfather. So he fails at that. And then they say screw it, and they forcibly take a microwave to then put themselves back in the timeline.
By the way, sci-fi tropes that Rick and Morty hasn't done yet. Become your own grandfather. Doesn't have to become, if your first thought is that becomes a major thing to show, it could be played for laughs and the absolute end of Morty actually being Jerry's dad instead.
Well, that leads to Fry being
And then the grandson is Rick.
That leads to Fry being the single most important person in the entire universe, because he lacks a certain the delta brainwave. So a race of super intelligent, disembodied brains can't mind control him because he lacks that delta brainwave. So he's able to combat them.
Which is set also Rick and Morty. Which I love. My favorite is that there is the evil Rick basically uses a shield of Morty's, because Morty's cancel out genius waves to mask himself. And it's like hundreds of Mortys, to which, obviously our Morty is horrified, and our Rick says, but that's mostly showmanship. I could have done the same thing with 4 Mortys and a car battery. But at the same time, Rick loves his family. This is evidenced in season 2 finale, which we're not going to talk about. Even season 1 finale, where he says that he's got a new motto. It's not Wubba Lubba Dub Dub or AIDS. It's I love my grandkids. What a great... Every single one of Rick's catchphrases is solid gold. Ricky Ticky Tabby, bitch!
I'm trying Rick.
Okay, Tiny Rick.
I'm not Rick Tiny Rick.
I'm in pain, let me out, yeah! The show is so quotable.
Get shifty.
And he alternates between loving his family and acting like he really doesn't care. And First Person says it best, which is that Rick has this apathy, and that gives him the power to create or destroy entire worlds, because he won't let himself get invested. And I think that's a really interesting thing to, to what extent do our emotions incapacitate us and lead us to make bad choices? That's something that's reflected in Morty Night Run, which, by the way, play on Midnight Run, where a guy rescues a con man, or where a guy rescues where an FBI agent goes off the grid to rescue a dangerous person because he has a lapse and he has a moment of ethics, which is exactly what happens to Morty, and as a result, thousands of people die. A lot of times you see, we want to hate Rick, but at the same time, he is a lot of times right. And that's something that a lot of people have trouble with in their universe, and it's something that makes us think about ours. How we perceive people is really interesting, which is reflected in the episode, is it the car battery episode? No, it's Jerry and Beth go to intergalactic couples counseling. And what they do is they incorporate this device where you see how the other person in the couple perceives them. So Jerry is this worthless slug, and just the whole time. That's all of the dialogue he gets. And Beth is this. Well, she's alien. She's the alien from Alien. And they do a lot of, they play a lot with the perceptions of different people where Beth, as Jerry acts to save Beth from the perception of Beth, the juries that she is creating shift. And how your actions can shift the perspective of other people and the kind of consequences that have around you. And of course they do it all way out of proportion, and it's super comedic. It's also really interesting, these ideas of, purpose and of emotion and family and what kind of ties we have to the world around us. And the show is really good, and I'm just babbling at this point. Is there anything else?
Anyone have any questions about Futurama? before we end? Or
Is it possible, is it possible for to be a Rick and Morty Futurama crossover episode?
I mean, so
that depends if Matt Groening wants to do it.
Rick and Morty did cross over in The Simpsons, which was excellent. That was like, it's like a minute video. I highly recommend you go home and watch it.
Couch gag.
Yeah, it's my favorite couch gag. Of course it is. Oh man, no more guest artists.
I would have liked to see what Farnsworth and Rick can come up with.
Oh god.
Because Farnsworth is like senile, but he also has a closet of doomsday devices that can destroy like universes. So it's like he's also completely mad because he's like 160. Good news, everyone.
Hoo-ha!
Warnstrom.
Warnstrom!
What Brian was saying about purpose can be said in Futurama as well. Because Bender has gone through like several existential crises where he finds out that robots have no free will, so he goes to try to find free will, finds it, and then like ends up being like, this is nothing different to what I already had. So it plays in the part like, did any of us have any free will at all, or anything?
This is expressed in the episode where Rick invents a robot, and the robot, what is my purpose? Pass the butter. But what is my purpose? That's it. Oh God. And Rick just looks at him and goes, welcome to the club. It's sad. It's this really depressing thought, but it's one that, you know, it's okay to ignore as long as you're consciously ignoring it. Like, we are all, you know, wrapping it up. There's no purpose. Nothing means anything. Nobody was meant to be here. We're all gonna die. Let's just go watch TV.
The code of the time turbo's on Fry's ass.
And I wake up every morning 40 feet from my own grave. And that is all the time we have. Thank you guys so much. So, just to recap, talk to Jenny. Jenny, raise your hand. Hi. Talk to her if you're interested in Relay for Life or t-shirts. And talk to any of the Bridge crew if you have any questions on anything.
If you want to talk to me about Futurama forever, right here.
Yeah, if you want to talk to me about Rick and Morty ever, just ask.
If you want to get trippy, come talk to me.
Oh yeah!
I think we should do an episode where Morty and Bender switch